Thanks for the invitation to talk here. I'm delighted to be here. It's very inspiring to hear all the different, some of the presentations are very technical for me, but still it's very inspiring. And I think this room consists of all the expertise on PDF and accessibility, so it's great to be here. And I'm also happy to get the chance to talk a little bit about what we're doing at the Nordic Council of Ministers in terms of accessibility. And coming from a publishing background, I've been working a lot with open access, and I'm sort of trying to see where there's a synergy and where there are some similarities in my perspective and sort of merge into accessibility. So this statement that the Nordic region should be open and accessible to everyone is a bold statement. It's a very wide and broad statement, but I think it's a statement that is, well, my key message today. And obviously I'm not a Prime Minister or anything, but I still think that driving this statement forward from below is an option. But before getting there, I just want to share with you some information, you may say, about the Nordic region. Some of you are not from this part of the world. And the Nordic region is made up of 5 countries. So it's Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden. And some of you may have heard of Greenland and the Faroe Islands and Åland, which is a very small community between Sweden and Finland. So these 8 members comprise the Nordic cooperation. I just want to show this cartoon because when outsiders look at us, they tend to think that we all look the same, and which may be true. And we even understand each other's languages, apart from Finnish, Icelandic, and Greenland. Sorry. But and then when looking from the inside, we all think that we are very unique. But and we may be. But anyway, I think it's true to say that it makes good sense to look at us also when we look from the inside, to look at us as a unity. Because although we're only 26 million people, our economies together make us the 12th largest economy in the world, which gives us a great common voice. And when you look at international rankings, we almost always get very high, and there are very many of these rankings. Even on happiness, we've been high, but Switzerland became higher a couple of years ago. Anyway. So our vision for the cooperation is that together we are stronger. So when it makes sense to work together, we tend to do that. And that's what makes the cooperation. So the Nordic cooperation is the official collaboration between the countries. And it really is one of the most comprehensive regional collaborations in the world. And for that we have had much attention. It's an old collaboration beginning in 1952 and then extended in 71 with a intergovernmental body. And we have a secretariat here in Copenhagen, and we have a lot of institutions and offices all over the Nordic region. And if you want to stroll down this shopping street afterwards in the afternoon, it's only 5-10 minutes walk from here, our secretariat, and in front of it we have this beautiful swan, which is made of it's recycled plastic bins, which was made into the swan, and you can Instagram yourself. And at least it's a very nice area in the city, so now you know. Well, the Nordic Council of Ministers, as I said, the intergovernmental body, and it's the responsibility of the Prime Ministers. They delegate the responsibility to the Ministers for the cooperation, and we have a Secretary General who is this gentleman, Dagfinn Høybråten. He's a former minister in Norway, and this quote, I'll begin by quoting. It's called Open Access. The key question is, for us, how can we increase the usability of all this knowledge we are producing? Open access is a means of enhancing the use and benefit of our investment in generating knowledge. So when he came, it was just a few months after he came, I made him say this, because my intention was to have an open access publication policy, and he didn't know, he'd never heard about open access. He was Minister of Health, but he clearly understood that open access and making things accessible in different ways is a benefit. It's even a business case, because we benefit more from our investment in knowledge generation. And we have a lot of ongoing projects, and we put a lot of money into it, and we want to make sure that it's coming back to the Nordic citizens and of course the politicians what we do. So this was a key driver for the publication activities, to have this open access policy written down and then supporting it by an open access infrastructure, which is a publication repository which comprises all our publications among our institutions and in our secretariat, around about 4,000 open access publications. So, in our policy, when we were writing it, we thought also about more than just giving access, meaning free to download and usage open licenses and so on. We have an institution in Stockholm working with welfare issues, and they said you have to remember that we should include a recommendation that publications should fulfill accessibility criteria for people with visual impairment or reading disabilities. And I was very happy about including that recommendation in the policy, because it gave us a reason to, or a fundament to work with accessibility in a new way. And this was not imposed politically on our publications operations. This was something we thought would add value to the way that we already work with publishing. So how did we then, to get more concrete, how did we then work with it? Well, there are lots of experts, or there are not that many. I see this is, or I understand this is more or less the essence of the expertise about PDF accessibility. But we try to consult with those we know in our network. For instance, I have good colleagues at the World Health Organization, and they have, for obvious reasons, also been working with accessibility. The Institute for the Blind in Denmark, called Nota. I know people there, I talked to them, and we got some inspiration. And then we attended conferences, and in Jens's previous life as a member of the staff at Rosendals, there was a conference a couple of years ago where two of my colleagues went, and after that we had Census, a Danish consultancy company, coming to us, giving us training on accessibility, and today we're here, my colleague Thomas is here. So we try to get knowledge about how we could work with these things. And then we also contacted different service providers, and at that time, Rosendals, which is our print partner, were very active on this due to the fact that Jens was working there, I guess. And with all this knowledge, we analyzed our content, and we publish around 170 publications each year, half of which we half of which come from a Word environment. So we have a template, which is this one. It's been made especially for us, so you can't read all the different tagging opportunities up here. But we tag the document from A to C all the way through. So that gives us a really good point of departure for PDF accessibility, but we're not there 100%. And but we thought, how could we have to become even better at using this and tagging it? So we thought we may have to get a new version of it. And this, as I said, is something that is free to download, and we use it because in Word, because most of our authors, those who don't write by hand, They use Word, and when they use it, it makes it faster and easier for us to publish. And then we convert from Word to PDF. Now, then talking to Jens and Rosendal, we realized that there was an ongoing initiative that could help us moving in the direction of PDF UA standard. And then actually I just checked in my files, and we entered into a pilot agreement in February 2014. So it's almost 2 years ago. And we thought, wow, now we're going to move ahead and will be PDF accessible within, well, I don't know, summer 2014. But something happened, and there was a big programming going on. We were waiting patiently, but we were waiting with great hope to actually get there. And I think the waiting time was good, because then we could develop our new Word template to be ready to integrate it with axesPDF, the axesPDF tool. And actually we're there now. So we have the new template, we're testing it. We have axesPDF tool ready, and we are testing it. And the results so far are very good, very promising, and it seems very straightforward to use. And we expect to launch by January next year, so quite soon. And my colleague who is responsible for this enterprise, so to speak, should have been here today, but unfortunately she's ill. But she set the deadline, so I guess it's fair to say that we'll stick to it. Now, I was thinking before coming here that, and I've been convinced that talking about the advantages of accessible PDF is not necessary, of course, in this forum. So I just want to touch upon a few points for what makes it some of the consequences that we have to consider as a publishing operation in an institutional organization when applying a new PDF standard to what we're doing. And of course there are some increased costs attached to this. There are some small license fees. This is not a lot, and there are some conversion costs, because until recently we have been working for other types of publications coming from InDesign. We have been converting, or will convert to EPUB and do some conversion stuff there. But I just saw this other tag tool today, which might be interesting for us. So these are not big costs, but what could be rather big costs is working hours. And I've seen my colleagues sweat at making tables right, because when we receive tables from authors, they are sometimes very hard to work with. Some of them are very large, and some of them are really hard to translate into an accessible language. Somebody was mentioning color codings in tables, so you have like 3 different colors symbolizing 3 different things. This is not really well. So we have to do a lot of work with that, and we have quite strict rules to ensure that the basics are in place for accessibility. So there's a lot of extra work on top of what we already do, and I guess that could be some of the obstacles for other organizations to work with PDF UA. But then there are some really great advantages, and we were just talking about how to integrate this mobile PDF view into a PDF reader. That would be a great thing. Looking ahead for the Nordic Council of Ministers, at least, I think what we've been doing in the publication department came just before a working group was set up in our organization that should sort of try to get a picture of where are we in terms of accessibility in the whole organization. And I have to remember to say that although we have many institutions and organizations that are part of the network, we're still a relatively small organization. It's only 500 people in total working in the Nordic cooperation, whereas the European Commission and just in Brussels there are 20,000 people. So we are just a tiny little ant. But we have an idea now that we should find a way in which to sort of lift the level of accessibility throughout the organization. And there's a working group looking into this. And on other issues like gender equality, we have gender equality like as a horizontal theme. So every time a project is set up, you have to remember or you have to address the issues of gender equality, also the issues of sustainable development. And I would like to think that at some point we also should have to remember to address accessibility issues. And I even think, talking about gender equality, I think when gender equality is looked upon as something gender specific, I think that's too narrow. I think it should be more broad, and their accessibility is really part of that issue. That's just my own thoughts. Now, this working group will have initiatives for 2016, and we'll be working closely with them. And they probably would need some good advice from experts. I haven't seen a member or attendee list today, but I would love to know or to remember who you are, because I think there would be this pool of knowledge would be valuable for such a working group in order to do things right. Because the ambition of the working group is, as it says, to be a good example when it comes to accessibility, and that makes the conclusion that the Nordic Council of Ministers should work better to everyone and should be open and accessible to everyone. So those were my words, and I'll leave the floor to Jens to demonstrate in more technical detail how we work with axesPDF. Thank you.